Good.
I mean, we did abandon our last live stream, so that could explain
We
why.
did. So maybe we pissed them off. They said to hell with it. We're gonna go somewhere where people don't abandon live streams. They're they're hating us the same way they hate Sega for dropping support of the Dreamcast 15 fucking years ago.
Hey, I dislike Sega for dropping support of the Dreamcast, but I
I know,
understand why they
but you
did
can
it.
fucking let it go already. Jesus Christ, it's been like a lifetime and a half.
Hey, we're all still holding out hope for the Dreamcast too.
Well, and then there's the real hardcore that want to call it the Dreamcast 3. There's those people.
There's a dream. Oh, the people that think the Xbox was the Dreamcast too. Is that who you're talking about?
That's exactly who I'm talking about.
Now, I do hear tell that you can play Sega CD games in the Xbox if you mod it.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've never tested that theory, but Big Daddy Darth on YouTube was telling me, I believe that was him that told me, you could mod it and actually play Sega CD games on it. It was he or possibly, might have been Mike Gardner. I can't remember who told me that. Somebody mentioned that if you mod it, you can play Sega CD games. So, yeah, exactly. That would lead to, I guess, some people maybe thinking that it was a Sega product. Now, the story behind that is that they were working with Microsoft to develop a new system. Is that correct? Sega was?
Something like that, and there's a lot of murky details, especially about the last. That's what I found anyway about the last days of the Dreamcast. There's a lot of murky details as to who said what and why they said it and so forth. So I don't want to speculate on that. You'd probably want to ask Sega Stoner or Mike Gardner about that.
Well, they're not here to ask. Hey, there's
Well,
another person watching. That's
but-
probably you watching. Never mind.
No, I'm not watching. So which means that there's somebody here. Hello out there in Internet
Thank you,
land.
Kit171. I'm
Kit
sure it's
171 is
Kit171.
here.
No,
Fantastic.
well, I don't know if he's actually here. I'm just assuming that he is because he's always first to everything.
Is that true?
In my experience, that is true.
I
He's always
found that
first to
Nicholas
everything.
Kennedy, the ultra brutal fatality, he's usually there before anybody else.
Well, I don't think he's subscribed to me because he never comes to my stuff. So
Oh,
maybe if we'd have told him you were here, he would have been first.
it could have been. You know, you never know. Oh well, let me see.
Now, how does it work? Do I have to update this to pull up comments? Is that the idea?
Something like that.
Oh no! The first person here is Atari 8-Bit Game Hunter.
Oh, okay. Well, then we were way off. Way off.
Well, welcome Atari 8-Bit Game Hunter.
I wonder what he wants to talk about.
I'm so completely distracted by the fact that it works.
Is that
Oh, we
bothering
can
you?
talk about all kinds of things. I mean, you and I can just chat. Having all this stuff going on, it's like flashing in front of me between you and I, and then everything is delayed. I hear you talk, and then I see your lips move like 5 minutes later, and then I've got this over here, which is at least 7 minutes later. So it's all very confusing. This is this is like 1980s broadcast television, is what this reminds me of.
Oh,
If I was
okay.
working
Or like
in
Max
a
Headroom.
broadcast station in, well, you know what? Probably more like 1960s. Kind of like that. There's enough flashing going on. It could be Max Headroom.
Oh, well, we could do that too.
So yeah, you talked me into doing this, and it has been nothing but a horrible
I
experience.
know. You know
blame
what? Shame on me. As a matter of fact, I'm never going to recommend anything like this ever again. This is a program. I thought this would be a good time, and this has been nothing but heartache. Coast to coast, transcontinental heartache.
You know, I'm not actually on a coast.
I guess Ohio to California is necessarily. Well, that's what I mean. That's why I said transcontinental. Changed my mind. You know,
Okay,
time zone to time zone. Goodness
Oh.
gracious.
What we got here? We got another post. Is it a question? Please be a question.
Something like that.
McFly3077, thank you very much for showing up. Please ask us questions. We're dying here. Well, I'm dying here. He could probably talk for hours.
Well,
But it's not his channel, so
I'm just
he doesn't
wondering.
want to.
I know.
He's trying to defer
I
to me,
swear.
and I'm a terrible conversationalist. I guess we can talk.
Are you suggesting I'm deferring?
Yes, you are in fact deferring because you're a nice person.
See,
But I can talk about all the crap behind me. I've been not doing anything on YouTube because I've been cleaning up and rerouting and moving things around, and that is why you haven't seen me. I'm down to one box of loose Sega Genesis games to get into cases, and I will be at least done with that. And then I can straighten everything out and get the game room set up, and I can actually have time to do YouTube again. That would be nice.
And the funny thing is, you've moved well past collector at this point. All this effort has turned you into what would otherwise be known as a curator.
Very true. Actually, I was about that close at one point to just saying, screw it, I'll sell everything I've got left. It's just not worth the headache. And it's really not. The one thing that made me keep it, because I was literally that close. My son said, Daddy, I don't want you to get rid of this. I want to be able to do this with you. This is fun. I like it. Please keep all this stuff. And I was even talking about just selling off like the top 10 items in each system collection. He didn't even want me to do that. So my son is who actually convinced me to keep this.
All right. So good old Lance, sticking to the guns right there. There has to be something to be said for that.
Well, I don't know that he was doing it for my benefit. I think he just wants to inherit it all when I die.
Well, that's exactly the point I was going to make, but at least he's got his, idea patterns going in the right direction. And you should be a proud father for just that reason.
I am. I was just telling you earlier today that he's actually got more money in the bank, I believe, than I do at the moment.
Oh.
That kid, he gets money for, you get your kid, you get money from your aunts and your uncles and people like that, and he doesn't spend any of it. I mean, he spends nothing. The kid doesn't want anything. And the money gets put in the bank, it sits there, and it collects interest. The bank that has his account actually sent him a credit card, not a debit card that says Visa on it, an actual Visa credit card with I believe it was $1,000 limit. They sent it to him. All he had to do was call to activate it. So I, of course, called and activated it, because if he goes out and spends a bunch of money on it, listen, he's under the age of 18. If he goes out and blows $1,000, they can't come after him.
So what you're essentially telling me is you're running your financial future off of the Buck Bundy principle.
Damn straight. It is a credit card scam, and I am proud. Drina25 is here. She went. I don't know. Are you a she? How bad is that?
I'll say, she, do you have women looking at your program? That's fantastic.
I don't have women subscribed to my channel, so I'm going to assume that Drina25 is not a lady, but in fact a strapping young man, and he wants to know, hello, how are you guys tonight? I'm well, aside from the difficulties with Google, not too bad. How are you, Yelkaz?
Oh, well, things could be worse, let me tell you, but I'm looking at the white screens of YouTube, and as I said earlier, things could be worse. Well, anyway.
I don't know. Every time I sorry, it's all the technology is confusing me. It's
well, you
awful.
know what? Now it's time. We're gonna do a power play right now. Atari 8-bit Game Hunter says he just got a Sega Saturn and a Sega Dreamcast system. Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, okay, it is. It is fantastic.
Okay. Yes, I agree. And he says, what are some good suggestions? All the suggestions right here on the Ed program are good suggestions. You don't even need to apply for them. If you want bad suggestions, you will have to, put a footnote _ you would like bad suggestions. And there are suggestions like that for each and every one of you. So,
So what you're saying is all he has to do is ask for suggestions. He doesn't have to specify good suggestions.
Exactly. And that's why he came here. Well, if he wants bad suggestions, you go to my show. And
you specify suggestions, and I will give you whatever I feel like giving you. Is that how that works?
Well, why not?
I guess so. Sega Saturn. Actually, I have a reasonably sized Sega Saturn collection, but I don't actually have many good games for it. Most of the games I have for it, because
could you say the same thing about 32X collection too?
No, I pretty much. No, that's not a fair statement. There are lots of good 32X games. Okay, there's not lots.
I didn't say there weren't. I just
good 32X games. Most of them are shit. There's a couple of good ones. Sega CD. I've taken care of the Sega CD a little bit more. Dreamcast. What would I recommend for Dreamcast? I like the Sonic games. I know a lot of people don't like Sonic Adventure 1. I think that's pretty good. Sonic Adventure 2 is a good game, but it's different. It's actually, I don't know, less adventure-y. Is that a word? Then Sonic Adventure 1?
Adventurous.
No, I don't know that Adventure Us would work, actually.
Oh.
I don't know. They're all behind me, so I have to keep looking behind me for examples, and my eyesight is not that good, and it's actually rather dark in here. What do I like on the Saturn? Not much is the answer. For games that I have legally, I don't really care for anything. And anything that I do like, the games that I have obtained other than legally,
Yeah.
actually they're right here. Hold on a second.
Otherwise.
I'll tell you. Come here, you. These are the games that I've gotten from my friend the Internet. And I don't have any problem saying that. I mean, I guess somebody could come and arrest me, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I would recommend. Nope. Yeah, that sucks. No, that sucks. Okay, there are no good games. Now, if you want to talk about Neo Geo, lots of good games for that. Sega Dreamcast. Honestly, there aren't too many games that I despise on the Dreamcast. I'm a huge fan of Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur is the game, for me anyway, that proved to me that arcades were just absolutely doomed. I came home, there were still arcades around here. I came home and played Soul Calibur, and it was the first game that was really miles ahead of, what was it? It's called Soul Edge, right, in the arcade. Miles ahead of Soul Edge. It looked better, it played better, had more options. And that was amazing to me, so play Soul Calibur. Like I said, the Sonic Adventure games. Crazy Taxi is a really cool, I guess you'd call it an open world game. I don't play a lot of modern games.
It's
open world-esque.
It's more, it's kind of like an open world version of Choplifter. Where you're just picking things up and putting it over there.
There you go. That's a good way to explain it. So open world-ish.
Or I guess you could say a short span open world race against the clock.
Yeah, well, Crazy Taxi 2 was more expansive.
I never played Crazy Taxi 2, I'm sorry to admit.
More of the same, but bigger. So
that's what I understand.
If you like that kind of thing, that's pretty good. How is my restoration going? Well, we just talked about that. I don't know if you posted that comment. Oh, sorry, Atari 8-Bit Game Hunter. I don't know. I have nothing but terrible games for the Saturn, and only a couple of good games for the Dreamcast.
Hold on. Well, let me see here. In my experience, the definitive version of Daytona USA is on the Sega Saturn.
I don't have that.
That's unfortunate for you and your pocketbook, for that matter. Also, the definitive version of Afterburner is available on the Sega Saturn.
I don't have that.
And I understand that. What is it? There's the Sega Ages collection, which I think is Japanese only. I'm not completely sure, but I think there's See, everything I could recommend from the Saturn was shit they tried 12 years earlier, and they had finally had the technology to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what the Saturn was. The Saturn suffered a similar fate as the Atari 5200. It was, here's a whole bunch of fucking arcade games in an era where people didn't want arcade games as much.
I still did, but I didn't own a Saturn. I didn't experience a Saturn until about 4 years ago. Is the first time I ever played anything.
Same for me, as a matter of fact, because and it may have been the same for you, I didn't know anyone who had a Sega Saturn.
Nope, not a single person.
Sega Saturn in my neck of the woods in California, where we were and where we grew up, Sega Saturn was like hearing about Pan, the mystical goat-legged man that sees children and takes them to a mystical fairy. That was the Sega Saturn. You heard somebody had a Saturn. Who? Oh, well, my friend's cousin's guy and the thing, and sister's brother's cousin, shit like that. I was going to make the former roommate, pun, but I don't think we'd have to go that far. And you heard about it, and it never materialized, except for, and the only time I came into contact with it was Electronic Gaming Monthly. And from what they could tell me, we'll get back to you. That's all I ever heard from them.
Well, and that was the shame with the Sega Saturn, is because they released it and they rushed it, and everybody knew that the PlayStation was coming out. At least this is the way it was with the people I was friends with. Everybody knew the PlayStation was coming out, so they sort of held off on buying the Saturn.
And that was the interesting thing, is the similar thing that's what hurt apparently Sega 32X sales was the impending release of the Saturn. And I remember people talking, at least maybe you do too, people talking about that before the internet. Like, that was actual talk amongst people who played video games. Everyone knew every step that Sega of America was making, and I'm curious how that was possible.
Well, I actually found out about. I had a friend that worked at a video store, and
Oh.
they rented out equipment. And my suspicion would be that people heard about it because there was a lot of game renting back then still. And I think that people heard through the rental is like, hey, the PlayStation's coming out, because he always knew. He knew what was coming out. He knew what games were coming out. He knew when they were coming out, how much they were going to cost.
Hmm.
He was the inside guy for me. And had he not been my friend, I still would have probably gotten that information from people in video stores when I went to rent games. Although, truth be told, I wasn't really playing a lot of games then.
Uh-huh.
The only reason I played as many as I did, the 32X and the Sega CD games, is because he worked there. He could take everything home for free that night. So I played a lot of that stuff. By the time the Saturn came out, he didn't work there anymore, and I was had I graduated high school at that? Yeah, I graduated high school. I was on to bigger and better things. I actually kind of abandoned video games for a while there until the Dreamcast came out, and my younger brothers and nephews and nieces all got Dreamcasts, and I got to live the Dreamcast through them. Or basically, I went to their house and played the video games.
Yeah, well, the Dreamcast found its way into my house through what had kind of become like the toy trade. I don't know if this happened to you, but stuff would just appear in our house. My brother would trade away video games, and like at one point we had a Nintendo 64. My parents never bought a Nintendo 64, but one just found a $300 or $400 piece of equipment just found its way into my house, and I played that for a while. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then a couple of days, later, there's a Dreamcast. I'm like, oh, all right, what's this all about? This feels like shit. I don't want to play this. And then my brother showed me Crazy Taxi, and then I changed my tune really quickly on that.
So I have a question. Are you saying that your brother had a knack for finding things and acquiring
No.
them?
He seemed to have some of the most trusting friends I had ever seen.
Okay, that's fair.
Because and honestly, I am amazed that because of that practice, let me try that. Let me try that again. I am amazed at the fact that I have as many games growing up as I do, because I figured they would have been lost in the toy trade long time ago. So I'm fascinated by that. But there's also games that I know for a fact I own because one of my brother's friends left it in our house, and somehow it found its way into my bedroom, and that was fucking 20 years ago.
We have no idea how.
Somehow, no idea how, and that was like 14 years ago. So if they want it, fuck them. That's.
I had the opposite problem in my house. Nothing good ever just showed up in my house unexpected or unannounced.
I know why that is. You had more than one brother.
Yeah, lots of stuff disappeared from the house. Mm-hmm. And I can only assume that, I had the 3 brothers and the 2 sisters, and my house was kind of the hangout house for everybody.
Oh,
lots
God.
of stuff walked out with the people that would hang out at the house. And things did not last long unless you kept it locked up. I actually put a door and a lock on my room and locked everybody out. That was the only way you could keep anything in my house growing up.
Well.
Exactly. We should probably pay
it wasn't
another question here.
Oh, well, we'll get to them in a minute. It wasn't like that at my house. Our house was not the hangout house, except for once in a while my friends want to come over and play guitar. And my dad made it very clear that we have guns.
Well, it was not the hangout house at my house until my dad passed away. Then everybody hung out there. Before my dad passed away, everybody was afraid to be there.
See, because usually in California, when that sort of thing happens, that means that one of your brothers is in a gang. So, was Joe in a gang or something?
Joe was not in a gang. There weren't really gangs, because where I grew up in an old farmhouse. There were groups of people who...
Oh, I'm sorry, you had the buttercreamers. Okay, but anyway.
Exactly. We literally lived about a half mile from an Amish farm, so... Hey, don't laugh. I used to play football with Amish people.
I'm sure they're very nice folks, but I'm sure they don't believe in you or something.
Yeah, I don't have a soul or something like that.
Or
I don't
like you
know.
talk on the telephone, so therefore you're bad.
I'm evil.
Yeah.
It is not true though. They're not afraid. They don't think that you'll steal their soul if you take their picture. I discovered that.
No, yeah. Well,
I'd always heard that, and they don't believe that.
well, now, before we get to the other questions, can I ask you? Can you clarify how you came about that information?
I asked.
Oh,
I knew enough of them that you could go up and ask.
what a proactive approach!
I almost dated an ex-Amish girl.
They
Uh,
have those. They have those. They're usually kind of loose.
yeah, I almost dated an ex-Amish girl that had an extra toe and a half per foot.
Oh, well, I'm
It
sure
was
that could.
actually that
Oh,
information that convinced me not to date her.
oh. Well, why? Because you think she could beat you in a foot race?
She certainly had better traction.
See.
No.
And think about this. Think about the future. Erase life up until now. If you had dated and married that girl, your children would be amazing swimmers.
This is true. I never thought about that. She did have webbed toes, and she was the best friend of my wife, Amy. So that worked out in my favor.
Yes. Well, see, I guess you could say it worked out. I mean, how do your kids swim now?
Not as well. Not as well as they
See?
would have if they would have had 6.5 toes.
See, so, these are things that you have to take into consideration. Immediately, you need to get in your DeLorean, go back some years, and rectify this situation. Make your kids better swimmers.
Well, we don't live near water. Maybe if we live closer to Lake
That's
Erie.
true. That's true. That you don't really live near water, so it's not really an issue. It seems like, a waste of plutonium to go all the way back for that. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is
No,
true.
that sucker's electrical now. That's right.
Yes, Mr. Fusion. Oh, we've got
Uh,
lots of questions now.
Oh, do we have lots of questions? All right, let me see what we have questions here for. Atari 8-bit Gamer says that no one had a Saturn. Yeah, well, because no one did. And
Galactic.
I mean, Ed, how many Saturns besides the ones you own have you ever seen in person, in the wild, not in a game store?
Never.
See?
The Saturns that I bought, the first Saturn I owned, I found at a game store, and they had it marked, I think, at $25, and I bought it. And then I ended up trading up because I found a Model 2 at a game store, complete in the box, for $40, and I was able to mod that so that it could play my illegally acquired discs. And then, aside from that, I've never seen one that wasn't in a game store, ever. I'm sure
Well,
they're out there somewhere. I just haven't seen them.
there have to be, and whoever had them apparently were disappointed.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that they were. She had a leg up. The only thing I can figure is because they're all over the place now in the game stores, is that people went and bought them when they were dirt cheap, just like everything else. That's how we have all these 32Xs around the place. So.
Well, absolutely, and that's the only reason that so many people have a 5200 or a 7800 or an Atari Jaguar.
All right, McFly at 3077 is killing me here.
What's he killing you about? The fuck you want, boy?
Ed, you should have asked her if she had a leg up. I bet her favorite game was Toe Jam and Earl. Probably true.
Can we kick him out of here?
No, that's good fun. Quick question, Ed. Do you guys have a chat room box open? All the questions are coming up in the comment section because we cannot make Google Plus Hangouts, whatever.
Yeah, and if we ask him to do one more thing, it's going to be thermonuclear war.
Yeah,
so be
it's
thankful for what you have.
It is barely working now.
You're lucky we're around here doing this. We could be like, digging in our belly buttons and eating Cheetos and shit.
I was doing that just before I got on the call here.
I know. I ruin everything.
Although not Cheetos though, it was deep dish double crust Krause's pizza.
Wait, what kind of pizza?
It's deep dish double crust Krause's pizza.
Oh.
Krause's pizza is a pizza made by a very large fat man who sweats over top of the pizza, and the legend has it that it is his sweat that is in the pepperoni cups and gives it flavor.
That's very nice of him.
I thought so, to share of himself that way.
So Krause's Pizza, a thin slice of cannibalism.
I don't know. Is eating another man's? Never mind. That's disgusting.
It could be. I mean, you got to imagine that the pigs were kind of sweaty before they got turned into pepperoni.
Well, Kit 171 was one of the few that actually had a Saturn.
Kid had a Saturn. He must have cost him a fortune.
I swear to God, you had everything. I have never known anybody that had as much stuff. You grew up with a silver spoon shoved straight up your ass.
That's not very nice.
Well, all right. Is that not where the silver spoon goes?
As far as I know, that's precisely where it doesn't go.
Oh, well, never mind then. But you did have everything.
Oh, well,
yes,
yeah.
Rez is an awesome Dreamcast game, though. That's true. Rez came out, I believe, first on the Dreamcast, didn't it? Have you ever played Rez? I never thought to ask that.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Are you aware of what Rez is?
I've heard of Rez, but I've never sat down and did any research about it.
Played it one time. I do not own it because I don't own good games for the Dreamcast, but it was
No one
rented.
does.
It was rented by my nephew back in the day, and my memory of it is kind of foggy, but I remember really, really liking it. You're like, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comments here, but you're like flying, and there's music, and everything is happening. It's timed to the music. It's very cool.
Oh, it's a shooter, isn't it? Or something?
All right, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say it's a great game because I can't remember it very well. That has been...
But it's great, so all right.
16 years? I remember liking it, though. I'll say that. I remember liking the game. I really should do research before I answer these questions, or at least think about it first.
Well, that would help. You don't have to. I mean, this is YouTube. You don't have to think about a goddamn thing.
That's a good thing, because I do not.
Yeah.
Rummaging around in my garage yesterday, this is Blade Bison, was rummaging around his garage yesterday and found a PS Go. Picked it up last
PSP Go?
Is that what it says? Oh, yeah, it does say PSP Go.
Okay.
God, I need glasses. Can I borrow yours?
Yeah, hold on. Hold your hand out the window.
Yeah. He laughed and put it back in his box. Is the PSP Go not good?
The PSP Go doesn't do anything. I don't even think it's supported by Sony anymore.
Wow.
It has no physical media that I'm aware of and only runs off of its own internal shop, which I'm pretty sure is no longer supported.
Is that the weird little thing that slides open?
Correct. It looks like an LG Xenon.
What the hell is an LG Xenon?
One of those phones that goes
Okay.
with the keypad underneath.
There are as many 32X great games as the Atari Jaguar. No. The Atari Jaguar McFly 3077 actually has fewer great games.
Like the Jag has like two things that it could pass for games. One of them is Tempest 2000, and the other is.
Are you thinking?
We'll get back to you about that one.
Oh no! Now come on. Alien vs Predator is excellent. And you cannot...
Are you going to look me in the face from across the internet and use the words excellent and Alien vs. Predator on the Atari Jaguar in the same sentence?
Have you ever played it? You have to think about when it came out. Have you ever played it on an actual Jaguar?
I have, as a matter of fact.
Because if you play it, I will say, for the people that have played it in emulation, it looks awful in emulation. It doesn't matter how good a computer you have, it looks terrible. But yeah, for the time that it came out, it was fantastic. You can't compare it to now.
Let me be clear. I did play that game in 2010 versus 1994?
I believe it was 94, yeah. You have to look at what was out in 94 that people were buying and playing. If you compare it to that, it's actually a better game in my... What was the...
I know, but I mean... Eddie, you really, if you're gonna, paint with that wide of a brushstroke, then you really have to say that Sherlock Holmes Investigating Detective is fucking amazing too. Because no one had ever seen anything like that either.
But it's actually a fun game. You're telling me you didn't enjoy playing it at all?
What, Alien vs. Predator?
Yeah, on the Jaguar.
I wouldn't call it excellent.
All right, so what you're trying to say here is that because it is not excellent now, and because you didn't play it back then, or are you just saying that it's not a good game on the Jaguar at all?
I'm saying it's a game that I, would not call excellent. Competent, absolutely. But I would not call it excellent.
See, maybe it's just because of when I played it, because I actually played it back then, and again, through the friend that worked at the, I thought it was fantastic back then. So maybe I'm looking at the game today through rose-colored glasses. That could be.
It could very well be. I mean, a lot of people would say the same thing like about Circus Charlie. Oh yeah, the game was amazing. What about it? Charlie, he was great.
No, it was a very playable, entertaining game back then. Now, this is the thing. You say Tempest 2000 is a good game. I love Tempest, so I think it was a good game. But you look at what it was on that system, it didn't really do anything on the system that required a lot of processing.
No, of course not, but it was an exclusive to that system.
No, you had Tempest 2000 came out on the Saturn eventually. I don't remember when. Yeah, Tempest 2000 came out on the Saturn. It came out on the PC.
Holy shit, we found a good game on the Saturn. Hot shit.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a good game on the Saturn.
2000.
Although I did get for the Atari Jaguar, I got the spinner controller for the Atari Jaguar after playing with it at the Midwest Gaming Classic.
The spinner controller? What the hell is that?
Somebody took and modified a regular Atari Jaguar controller with a spinner on it. And
spinner like the WWF belt that goes around and around like this, or
it does go around and around, but it goes around and around like the spinner on the original Tempest arcade machine.
Oh,
spinner.
What did they make it out of? They put an actual arcade spinner in there?
It's not an actual arcade spinner. They use, well, from what I understand, they make, what the hell is it called? You know what, I'm not even going to try and think of what it's called because it would take me 10 minutes to remember. But no, there's a piece that goes in there, and then they basically mount a knob that it looks like they bought at Radio Shack. And I went to price it out. I didn't want to cut up one of the Jaguar controllers that I had. I'd had to buy the Jaguar controller for probably $15, I think is what they go for now. And then I'd had to buy the parts. I ended up getting the controller off eBay for $25. It was what I would have paid to put it together. And it really does. If you get an opportunity and you really like Tempest, get out of there, kitty. Definitely get one of those controllers. They're fantastic.
Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind.
It makes a good game even better.
Yeah, well, interesting.
We got way off topic there.
Well, no, we're right on topic because everything on this program is on topic.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to get back to, though, is there are more good 32X games than there are Atari Jaguar games.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no denying that. There's no denying that at all.
Now, that is a little bit like saying, no, I won't go there. We'll just leave that alone. Never mind. We'll leave it at that.
Well, then let's just leave it at that.
There's good games on both systems.
Yeah, I mean, they're here and they're there, and the 32. Also, don't forget they were at different times. Well, actually, not really. They were, but they weren't, and
not separated by much. Separated by what, like a year?
By like a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
But really different mindsets because the 32X was designed to, continue the lifespan of the Genesis, whereas the Atari Jaguar was a complete departure from anything that you would have expected from Atari back then. And of course it did. But the problem is they applied an old strategy, which was to tout technology over function. At least it seemed that way to me.
Boy,
because
that sounds familiar.
It does, doesn't it? I don't. There are other electronics manufacturers.
Current day.
Some of them are selling real estate these days, I heard. But anyway, it seems to me like, and Ed, maybe you saw this differently. I want to talk about the Atari Jaguar for 1 second because when the Atari Jaguar was first coming out, oh, all right then. The Atari Jaguar on the when it was first released and there was all the promo materials. I was reading Nintendo Power obviously because that was the easiest gaming magazine to get a hold of where I lived. Not all of them. That's the thing that people I don't remember that magazine is because, periodical distribution was way different in the 1990s than it is today.
Yeah.
Similar to most forms of communication. But I remember reading through my favorite comic book back then, which was Punisher 2099 from Marvel Comics, and it seemed like every issue of the Punisher 2099 had an advertisement, 2 full pages, blasting my face with how the Atari Jaguar is 64 bits.
Yeah.
And some old broad on a chalkboard, saying, you do the math, 64 is better than 16, and blah, 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 blah. And it just never fucking came to fruition.
Well, from my point of view, I started my gaming career on an Atari, as a lot of people did. But I grew up with the Atari. So I had the Atari, it was probably 81. and I had it until I got my Master System, which would have been
86, right?
very late '86. Yeah, I got it. I think the first Christmas it was out. So I mean, I had it for 5 years, and that's what I played on. So I had an affection for Atari, and I was excited. I remember when the Atari XEGS, the XE gaming system, came out. I really, really wanted that, but it wasn't going to happen because I think at that time I had the Master System for a couple of years, and then the Genesis was coming out. So when I heard about the Atari Jaguar, and it was 64 bits, I'm not going to lie, I wanted that thing so bad. It was
Even though you had no idea what that means.
Exactly, and it's funny because I looked. No, I knew. At that time I did because I was. What was I, 17? I mean, I was fairly well versed at the time that came out. But it was the first one that I'd wanted since I'd gotten my Genesis in '89, and it was weird because I really wasn't all that into gaming in those years. I had started playing PC games, so the Atari Jaguar is the first one I thought, ooh, this one's going to be better than the computer games. You know, it's going to look better, it's going to play better, and it's weird because I look at the commercials now and I see the gameplay they show in the commercials. I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Because you watch the commercials, the gameplay looks awful.
Yeah, well, I mean, realistically, you could say that it was like nothing you'd ever seen before.
That is a true statement.
And to this day, it's still like nothing you've ever seen before. It's a real bummer because it kind of does. I believe firmly. And regardless of what I say about the Atari Jaguar CD, which was not an Atari creation, Atari just put money into it and marketed it. You know, that system was already more than halfway done before Atari, got involved with what was the Jaguar. But I honestly believe, and based on my own research, and solely my own research, there was a lot of untapped potential in the Atari Jaguar, and much like the Sega Saturn, just no one knew how to use it properly. And that's a real shame because I don't know if there's a huge showing as far as homebrew releases on the Jaguar. Do you know of any, Ed?
There are actually a few, and I wasn't aware of them until I was looking for Electric Adventures games on a website, and I came across some Atari Jaguar. I had no idea that there were homebrew Atari Jaguar games. I guess it stands to reason somebody out there is going to be a Jaguar aficionado, and they will have programming skills.
There's got to be somebody, and hopefully they're not the ones who are trying to corner the market with all this absurd pricing for a machine nobody wants.
Yeah, exactly. And there are several. I tried 2 or 3 of them at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and one of them was like almost like a knockoff of Tempest. I don't remember what it was called, but it played with the spinner controller as well. That was the only reason I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
The others I played were not good. I don't even remember what they were like, to be honest. So
that's a real shame. That's a real shame when you get it, because way back when, when you would go to your video store and say, did you have an NES in the 1980s or 1990s at all?
Yeah, my brother actually got an NES the following Christmas, right after, so it would have been '87. He got an NES.
So then you remember what it was like in the video stores, where Nintendo essentially dominated everything. There was a smaller shelf for Sega Genesis, which had just come out, and Sega Master System had like that shelf they put the candy on. That was Sega Master System.
Actually, you could not rent Sega Master Systems in this area.
No?
I was the only person I know that had a Sega Master System around here. If you go to look for them, if you go to look to buy them around here, they're kind of like the Sega Saturn, except you don't see them even that often. You'll see Sega Saturns. I can go into any of the game stores around here and see a Sega Saturn. I would have to go to 15 or 20 of them before I'd see a Sega Master System. So they were very uncommon around here. Same thing with the TurboGrafx 16. I never see TurboGrafx 16s around here.
Well, TurboGrafx 16 is what I'm best understanding was when its initial launch in North America, like most things, of course, started with the Los Angeles market and the New York market, and I don't think it grew very far past that into the middle of the country.
I knew one guy that had one in high school, just the one guy, and nobody knew what the thing was. But he was talking about, oh, it's great, it's 16 bits, it's fantastic, it's better than the Sega Genesis, and in some ways it is. I like the music better, and I'm a Sega Genesis fan, so that takes a lot out of me. God, again, well, I think we were on topic there, but what do we have?
Yeah, well, what I wanted to bring up about, speaking of homebrew...
You still didn't bring up what you wanted to bring up?
No, I didn't. I was trying to sympathize with your situation in the late 80s and early 1990s. You don't seem to appreciate this.
All right, I'm sorry. What was it that you wanted to bring up that you didn't
Well,
talk about all that time?
just about when you come across bootleg games and so on,
Uh-huh.
and because they crept into the video stores, if you remember, and that's
The,
essentially.
I don't remember actually, but
Oh,
I'll
you
take
don't.
your
Well,
word for it.
yeah. Well, every once in a while, kind of bootleg games would creep into the video stores, and that's essentially what you were getting. You were getting a homebrew. And to bring it back around to the original point that I was trying to make, is that when you get a homebrew game, especially someone who's had this much time with the hardware, and then you play it and it kind of sucks, and it's like, well, the fuck is wrong with you? You know, because these homebrew games are expensive. They are very expensive because they're expensive to produce. And I shouldn't say.
Yeah, I haven't paid. I've not had the guts to buy any homebrew games for that exact reason. I'm afraid I'm going to get it, and it's going to be terrible. And there are a few that I've seen reviews of online, and they're really tempting. They make me want to buy them, but I haven't shelled out the money for it yet.
Yeah, Alpha Omegason, he buys a couple from Time Walk Games, one of those guys.
Uh-huh.
And he tells me, oh yeah, they're great games, you should get one. I'm like, how much you pay? 75? Fuck you, dude. You can lick my ass with your $75 for a ROM hack. You know, if I
Yeah.
see it out someplace, maybe, but 75, and don't get me wrong, I think they're pretty, and that's a lot cheaper than what an original fucking Super NES game went for, inflation adjusted anyway. But, you know, I just told him, I was like, you can kiss my butt with your $75 for a homebrew, and most of them are ROM hacks.
Yeah,
Not that, you know, they're great packages, but
you know what? I just lied. I do have homebrew games.
do you? Which ones do you have?
I do. I have Metal Sonic Overdrive.
Uh-huh.
What else do I have? I have. I forgot all about those. I have Death Caliber. I have. I don't remember what it's a ROM hack of, but I have Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring for the Sega Genesis. Now, I got them though because they were given to me. The Sega Stoner sent them to me, so I do have some, but I couldn't bring myself to spring for them.
Yeah. And it's always a shame when, you know, you've had 30 years with this machine and you couldn't make something.
Well, in the case of the games that I have, well, Sonic Metal Overdrive especially, it's just a ROM hack. Literally, somebody took and they put some new skins over top of the existing. I can't even really say skins. They put new sprites in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm okay with that as long as they're either giving it away for free or they're putting it on a cartridge that you can buy for $10 because you want it as a curiosity. I'm okay with that. But what you're saying is if they're asking $75 for a ROM hack, there are some games out there though that people have spent years developing.
Oh, sure.
I haven't played any of them, and I hear they're fantastic. I still can't bring myself to spend $75 on a game for an old system. I want to.
Well, $75 on a game, period.
Well, this is true. Yeah, I haven't spent $75 on a game ever.
I think someone asked me what's the most I ever spent on a game. It was like $64.44. That's what I spent on Super Mario Brothers U. That was the most I ever spent on a game.
That's a good question. $49.99. I bought. This is how bad I am. I bought Mario Kart 8, and I found it in one of the game stores. Somebody had bought it and returned it, and they still left the points in it. And I got it for $10 off. I bought a used Mario Kart 8.
Nice. We got it on sale at Fry's Electronics, I think. Mrs. Yell Chaos got that on the way home from work.
So that's the most I have ever spent for a game other than StarCraft 2, which I returned, so it doesn't count.
That's right, it doesn't. I hear all kinds of wacky stories, and I hope you have a few wacky stories, but I hear all kinds of wacky stories about how much money someone spent on a game, and I don't understand why.
Are you referring to people that buy retro games for outrageous prices?
Not just them. The people that buy the collector's editions of games and buy a game for like $170 because it came with like a headband.
I don't have a lot of experience with that. I've heard through YouTube of people doing that, and it is not something that would ever even enter my mind to do something like that. If I'm going to play a game, I want to get it as cheaply as humanly possible. And
sure.
It has to, in order for me to pay full price for something, it has to be something I really, really, really want. and there's not a lot. I mean, I really wanted Mario Kart 8, and it's been a great game, but I still didn't want to pay full price if I could help it.
Well, like you're talking about paying that much for a game for an old system, there's not a whole lot you can do because the reason games were so expensive way back when, they had to pass the manufacturing costs on to the consumers.
Yeah.
Because those things...
And they were a lot more expensive to make.
Oh, absolutely.
The ROM chips were ridiculously expensive back then.
Yeah, and now what you're seeing is a lot of them are built from cannibalized carts, a lot of old Madden games and things like that. They're, reprogramming those old EPROMs and all that stuff. But Alpha Omega Sid, as a matter of fact, showed me Super Mario Return to Dinosaur Island or something like that, and he showed me all the stuff that's inside, and it's a very, very impressive package. I cannot take that away from the guys at Time Walk Games. I think that's who did it. If I didn't, then I totally messed that whole thing up.
So did you just say that Alpha Omega Sin has a very impressive package?
He was sent a very impressive package. From who? I haven't the vaguest idea. He's a very open kind of guy. I'll be very honest with you. He's a very open kind of guy. And, the box and the cartridge and the board and the ROMs and the label and all the paperwork and all that really that's expensive. The cart mostly. And so I know that's what it costs to produce something like that, but I can't bring myself to spend that kind of money. I can't. I've tried. Can't.
I did spend that kind of money on an EverDrive for the Sega Genesis. And I know it seems ridiculous when I have a ton of games, but first of all, I didn't have this many games when I bought it. I bought it when it was a brand new thing. And to me, that was worth it. I think I bought them while they were still cheap. I think I paid $75 for it, and it was the deluxe edition, and that's worth it because that opened up a whole collection of games that I didn't own. As many games as I have now, I've still got less than half of the Genesis collection, and in addition to that, I can play all the Sega Master System games, I can play from other regions, so to me, $75 seemed like a bargain for that, because I can play all the games that I'll probably never be willing to spend the money on.
Sure. I can understand that.
So I guess saying you were talking about the materials costing so much money, and I've seen how they build the EverDrive carts, how they painstakingly paint the things and design that. So I get that. I understand there's a cost involved, and I'm not unwilling to spend the money when it seems worth it to me. But to do that for one game is just not.
Which is not that different from a game you probably played before.
Yeah, well, yeah. It seems vaguely reminiscent of another game they hacked the ROM from.
Yeah, and like I said, again, I appreciate the work they had to go through. I just cannot convince myself to force open the strings of the purse and drop that kind of money. That could be better used because I don't know if I told you about this because for those of you who don't know, those who follow Ed here, Ed and I actually do get a chance to text back and forth throughout the week every once in a while. And I don't know if, Ed, we went back and forth about this, about how I cannot afford to collect comic books.
We've talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, have you seen what the comic books cost now?
I don't collect them, and I don't look at what they cost, so I have no idea.
I go in, I've recently found a few stores near me, and down here in San Diego, and I cannot believe what video games or not video games. I'm somewhere else right now. What comic books cost? They start at like $4 an issue for one issue. And I think I could probably buy like you know how many games, if I played my cards right, I could get for $4? 4.
Yeah, well, I can get 2. I can't find too many for $1. But the one point I'd like to make on this subject of paying an exorbitant amount of money for something that took somebody time to develop and manufacture, the one good reason I can think of that you would actually do it is to encourage more people to do it. And the idea that being at some point, if they make enough money on it, the price might come down, or if it doesn't come down, they might produce something else that you may actually like. And I can appreciate that. People say they do that. Like, I will pay money for things sometimes that I wouldn't buy if it was just for that item, but I'm doing it to support the person that produced it or that provided the service to me, and I want them to continue to do that kind of work. So that I think is a valid argument. It's just there's not much that I find, at least for me, that is worthy of me spending that much money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And once again, I want to make it clear that I have no reservation about what those people are doing. They're doing great work, and they're doing, they're making their art, and I can commend them for that, and I appreciate them for that. But once again, it's just a matter of forcing open my own purse strings to drop that kind of money, because $75. I'm going to the Classic Gaming Expo, in just a few short weeks, and I could do some serious damage with $75. I know that for a fact, as opposed to plunking it down.
Let me ask you a different question. If you were able, let's say they were selling the ROM online, or they were selling it as a downloadable program, is there a price that you would be willing to spend to buy it? If it was a game that you appreciated. So you wouldn't pay $75 for it, but if they were selling a downloadable game, and it was a game that you enjoyed, would you be willing to pay, say, $5 to download the game? Which is a valid question in this day and age, I think.
Well, are we talking about any downloadable game?
Well, I guess. This would be a game that somebody made for a retro system, and they're selling it on a cartridge for $75, or you can download it for $5.
Or there's a digital option.
Yes.
That would really depend on the game. And we live in an age where exposing your game and showing what it's all about and letting people decide, that's very, very possible, and there's no excuse for not doing it. So
I know that nothing bad has ever happened when I exposed my game.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever you expose your game, I mean, you set yourself up for consequences, obviously, but
always good.
Always good. Don't you love the way I'm totally no-selling this?
We have lots of questions, I think.
Oh, well, then let's get to the questions here before...
Mr. Dude 206 is here. Kid Shoryuken is here.
Oh, well, fantastic. I understand Kid Shoryuken, a recently re-Americanized Kid Shoryuken, I understand.
He is a re-Americanized Kid Shoryuken. That is true.
Yeah.
Also,
so good for him.
Salads.
Well, that's all right. I mean, it's going to be tough for him now because he's going to have to go out to bars with tall people. I know that's going to be tough for him.
He is himself a fairly tall guy, yeah?
Yeah, I know. Now he's going to have to be around other tall people. You don't have that in Japan.
That would be disconcerting.
Yeah.
I have to shuffle the comments here. Let's go newest first. And where did I leave off? Good God, we left off way down here.
Are we way down there?
Yeah. Mr. Dude 206 is throwing out random questions like, is KFC open? I don't know who asked that question.
He likes the PSP as far as I know, KFC is open as much as they possibly can.
McFly3077 is chastising us and telling us about all kinds of great games on the Atari Jaguar.
Oh, well, when he gets his own channel, then he can chastise people.
And I don't know how to pronounce Paul Kies Palmer. I don't know, but he wants to know if we can do a song and dance number. No.
Well,
no, I cannot.
No, I think he wants a jaunty tune, but for a jaunty tune, you need a jaunty cane and a jaunty hat, and we don't have the funding here on this program. On the other hand, if we get some ad revenue going on in here, then we'll have a jaunty tune right here on EdTV.
That's right. Going to be opening up a Kickstarter here very soon.
Oh, are we doing that?
Yeah, it'll be the Jaunty Tune Kickstarter.
No, all right. Well, there's a Kickstarter for everything now.
There may as well be.
And I found out apparently there was a Kickstarter going to, pay someone to punch the fuck out of Justin Bieber. So. And a celebrity
contributed to that.
Did you? Yeah.
I said I might have. I might have contributed to that had I known.
Doesn't sound like it. Like somebody's holding a Kickstarter to pay money to a pirate to punch Justin Bieber, and it came to fruition.
I have no problem with Justin Bieber. He can do whatever he wants. That's wonderful. Until my daughter decides she wants to listen to Justin Bieber music. Then I instantly had a problem.
Well, see, the problem I had is he almost ruined Full Metal Vegas 7, so fuck that guy in his butthole.
He almost ruined Full Metal... How did that happen?
Huh? He wrecked the traffic on the Las Vegas Strip the day we came into town,
yes.
son of a
I
bitch.
thought you were joking about that.
No, not at all, motherfucker. He pulled some kind of fucking stunt with his. It was his bus, and it fucked up traffic on Tropicana Avenue. And son of a bitch.
I thought you were joking about that. I'm sorry.
No, fuck him in the asshole with a big rubber dick and then break it off.
Okay.
Kit 171. Oh, I'm sorry. You have a family-friendly program. I'm so sorry.
No, I don't. Nobody watches my channel anymore. Except
okay.
Kit 171, McFly 3077, and the nice folks that are here tonight.
I said Kit 171. It seems like he watches every YouTube channel ever.
He does. Electric Adventures does.
Tony over there. Tony watches everybody. Where he gets this kind of time, I have no idea.
I have some suspicions about that, but I won't out him on the air here. McFly 3077 repeats himself. Galactic Attack is freaking amazing. You know, I might have Galactic Attack. I really need to get around to playing these games more often now that I've got them cleaned up. I believe I played Galactic Attack. Kit 171 says all the comics he still has, have advertisements for the Genesis Mega Drive for whatever reason. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it seems like comics are having a similar flare-up. As I get this idea, and Christy O'Connell actually sent me something about how apparently there's this idea that anything from the 1990s or late 1980s is valuable now. Because I see the comic books in the thrift stores, and they're asking like $2 and $3 for just some loose comic book. Like, are you out of your fucking mind?
It's getting crazy around here. I was just out at a store today, and it's one of the exchanges, one of the ones I go into, and the prices are going up in all of them. But I came across this one today, and it seemed like everything I looked at, the price had just been jacked up astronomically. Super Mario Duck Hunt was $15. It wasn't just that it was $15. It's that they had 12 of them. They were all $15.
They're 25 at the Book Off in Westminster, California.
Do they have 12 of them?
Last time I was there, they had like 6.
Okay, that's bad enough. But then I walk over, and I used to be able to buy laser discs in there for $1, $2, $3. And granted, I'm probably the problem because I'm buying the stuff. But there's nothing.
Yeah, shame on you.
Yeah, there's nothing there for less than $10 now. And I know they didn't start suddenly giving people $5 or $6 per disc. I'm sure they're still giving those people 50 cents each. But they marked the price up. It's crazy. Everything was marked up there. The toys they have there are crazy prices. I don't think they have comic books though.
Mm-hmm.
Except the Retron 5. The Retron 5 dropped $40.
Oh.
In that store.
Oh wow. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, Atari 8-Bit Game Hunter again says he has a hard time paying $50 on Super Nintendo homebrew. Me too. The Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, and 8-bit computer homebrews are usually a good price range at $20 to $30 a cart. Is that a good price range?
Depending on where you get them, I guess. I noticed that those are becoming rapidly far more common.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, $20 to $30 for. I mean, even for a homebrew 2600, 5200, 7800 game seems kind of pricey.
It does.
If it was something that I had always wanted to see, like if they came out with a good version of Donkey Kong on the 2600, you know, that would.
The version that's there's not bad.
There might be. I think I saw a ROM hack of Miss Pac-Man on the 2600. They made it Pac-Man, and that would be something I wouldn't mind having, but I'm not going to pay $30 for it. So you would have a good version of Pac-Man on the 2600.
You see, that's funny that you brought that up, because I know that the 2600 is very easy to work with, and I think that's why the homebrew community has really grown rapidly in the last 3, 4, 5 years. But I know for certain, people don't realize this, but as a retro gamer, if you're not at least somewhat mechanically inclined, you're dead.
Yeah.
Because these machines were not made to last for 30 and 40 years like they have. They were designed to meet a need in the market for a short time, and then you replace it with something else. And probably something that plays Blu-ray movies or something. I don't know. But I know, and I've opened up I've had to get inside many Atari cartridges. There's nothing in there. The chip is this big.
Yeah.
The PS Vita chip is a similar. I'm exaggerating, of course, but there's not really anything in there. So I know those are not that expensive to produce. I could be wrong, or it might just have to do with the manufacturing techniques. That could be very well be it too. Inefficient manufacturing practices. So.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that expensive. But again, it's the time they put into it is why they're
Sure,
charging
and
so
then
much
I'm sure
money.
they're not doing this for a business. This is not their key livelihood. They're just trying to make their money back, and I understand that. Unlike fucks like Greg Pabbage and his Cheetah 2 project, but we don't have
What
to
an
talk about.
appropriately named project for him to have. Cheetah Man.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Back to the question here. Dustin Bowles says he can place any ROM into his original Xbox. Why pay for the experience of playing with an original controller? That's a valid argument. There are a lot of people. My younger brother, he loves retro games. My youngest brother, but he plays everything in emulation on his computer. And I guess my argument would be, why are you playing it on your Xbox? So you must have a computer because you're talking to us here.
Exactly.
Why'd you spend the money on the Xbox? And I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying everybody has a different opinion of what is an appropriate experience, for gaming. His happens to be a computer because he already has a computer and he can play all the games he wants to on there. And yours is you can play it on an Xbox. So everybody has different opinions. That's fine.
Oh, sure. I don't believe that there's one appropriate way to really do anything.
Well, I don't game one way. I mean, I play retro games in emulation when it's convenient. I've been actually playing lots of them in emulation on my computer here because I haven't been able to get to any of this stuff to play it. So.
Well, see, there's this idea that you're somehow subject to the collector's pricing that's for some reason permeating the market right now, which is going to collapse under its own weight any time now. So.
It has to. I mean, eventually you're going to reach the pinnacle of what people are willing to spend.
Well, I mean, have you noticed that a whole bunch of middle-tier games are creeping way up high, and there's not really anything in the middle to support that? You've got just a whole bunch of piss games that people throw.
Duck Hunt now selling for $15 and $25.
Exactly. Meanwhile, PlayStation 1 games are going for $1.50 or whatever. There's no middle ground in that market, and when that's what's called a top-heavy market, and it will collapse onto itself.
It's fun listening to you talk and then seeing you finish the hand motions a full 10 seconds later.
Oh, are we off to this now? Are we in Google Vision one more time?
I don't know. It seems like it's running okay on the stream, though.
Oh, well, hopefully it is. Folks, we really hope this is looking good for you, and we hope to do this again when it actually does work.
Well, they haven't told us it sucks yet, so that's a plus.
Oh, that's true, but they might not be even paying attention. They're probably off in the corner cleaning games or something, just listening to this.
They're still talking. Let's see here. McFly3077 is very talkative. He wants to know favorite systems to collect for. I don't know that that's difficult for anybody to guess for either one of us.
Well, there could be different reasons though. Like would you say number one, right? If you could tell me your favorite system to collect for right now.
Oh, you know what? That's a better question to ask right now. Because honestly, right now it's the Wii U, and that's going to probably surprise a lot of people. I haven't bought a lot of games for it, but I bought a few more games for it. Lance and I have been actually playing it a fair amount, and honestly, I'm discovering games for that system that I would not have expected that I would enjoy.
If you don't realize, it's a beast.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. What I will say though is, for the hardware specs that it has.
No, I didn't mean I just meant an attitude.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how good the games look on that hardware, because it's really, if you look, it's very, very anemic hardware. If you look at like the GPU on it compared to, well, not even just the other two game consoles that are out right now, but to anything. I mean, it's somewhere below like mediocre laptop graphics processors. It's very it's not very powerful. But
yeah, and it just comes in and knocks in dicks. Yes. It's amazing.
It's amazing to me how much it hits above its weight class compared to, I've seen on my niece has the PlayStation 4. I don't know anybody with an Xbox One yet, so I can't compare that. Though I
don't know. I don't know one single person.
I did make a video where I compared the Xbox One graphics to this little $30 PC that I built right here, $35, and this thing kicked the Xbox One's ass. But I've been playing. Well, I've seen Xbox 4 games, not Xbox 4. God bless America, PlayStation 4, and it really it's hitting below its weight class. I mean, for what it should be able to do, it's nothing amazing, but I haven't seen anything yet that utilizes the hardware, and that's amazing because I'm being told that it's already reaching its maximum potential, and that's mind blowing to me because the Wii U is so much better than I would expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Xbox One to me, when you look at the machine, it looks like Fort Knox. When you look at Fort Knox, you see this Titanic-sized building that's got a piece of cargo about this big and all this bullshit around it just to protect this one precious thing. And that's what it seems like the Xbox One is. It's, a game machine that's half the size, and all that other bullshit around it is a bunch of security features to make sure you do with it what they tell you to do with it.
Yeah, they've backed off on a lot of that stuff, but...
But I mean, see, they designed it with that in mind, and backing off is only going to slow things down.
Well, this is the thing I'll tell you. If you look at the actual hardware that's in the systems, there's not as big a difference as what people say there is between the Xbox One and the PS4.
No, just the way it's implemented.
Yeah, they can squeeze a little bit more out of it, and it really comes down to basically the same argument we had in the 90s between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. People say that the Super Nintendo has better graphics. Well, no. It's just most of the multiplats at that time, they were being released. When the Super Nintendo came out, they were being released for that system because it was the new system.
It was. 2 years back then was a lot.
Yeah, they would design the game for the Super Nintendo and then port it to the Sega Genesis. Not all of them, but probably 98% of them. So, of course, it looked better on the Super Nintendo. And it's the same way now. With the exception of the games that are designed specifically for the Xbox One, or exclusively for, they're probably designing it around the PlayStation 4, and it just doesn't look quite as good. They have to tweak it for the Xbox One.
Well, the real problem is they make it for the PC, and then nobody wins.
Well, no, that's the thing, though. They don't anymore. Like, because I play PC games. I never really stopped doing that. And there are a few games that I was really interested in because I would see them on one of my friends' Xboxes or one of my friends' PS3s, and I would try the game out on the PC, and it wouldn't look as good. Now, I know full well that my computer could kick the ass off of all of those consoles, but it couldn't do it because the game was designed for the console, and then they ported it over to the PC, and it's just awful. That's been my experience. So, and that's why I was kind of, and I don't want to get too nerdy on this, but I was kind of excited that they were using multi-core processors and AMD GPUs because my hope was that they would start, developing games to use multiple cores. Where now they kind of, you know what? That's a whole PC argument, and I won't get into that. I won't subject you good people to that, but I did make a video about that, I think, when I was talking about my computer.
Yeah, you don't have to go through all of that, but yeah, that is the real shame
thank you.
of the matter. Well, no, I see what you mean, and that's really a tech discussion. When you're discussing games, you're discussing entertainment. So you don't want to cross those paths too often because then you get the confusion that we have in the media today. You have a bunch of.
But I think it's important to know the technical side of it. The idea that you're producing it for one bundle of hardware, and that's what it's designed to run on. And then when you alter it to run on a different bundle of hardware, not everything works the way it should.
Well, it's simply a case of trying to please everybody and not really pleasing that many when all is said and done. It's a problem that's befallen many consumer electronics devices before these machines.
Really? Which one?
The Betamax springs to mind, for instance.
Dang, you had that ready to go right away.
I did. I'm always Mr. Betamax because
I have a Betamax.
You have a I have a Betamax too.
I have a Betamax, and I've got about 35 movies for it.
Are they manufactured movies?
Yeah. No. I did not download them off the internet and make them myself. No.
Well, no, I say because my beta collection is mostly stuff recorded from television and stuff, and it looks fantastic still.
I know, isn't that amazing? How good it still looks.
It seems like beta doesn't degrade the same way that JVC's, or was it JVC or Panasonic's VHS technology?
I don't remember, but I will say, and this is weird because I've got VHS tapes, and they degrade horrible. I've got lots of stuff I recorded with VHS, but I have the compact VHS tape, and I just happen to have one sitting right here that I used to have a video camera. And
oh, the VHS-C?
Yeah, that used the VHS-C. The quality of the video, it doesn't degrade the VHS-C like the regular VHS does, and I don't know why that is. And
the VHS-C, well, VHS-C is a proprietary format to Sony Electronics.
Who made the Betamax.
Yeah, who made the Betamax, and the construction is quite similar, and that's why those tapes are so damn expensive, or at least they were back then, because they were of the utmost quality.
But I used this after I don't have it anymore. I sold it, and it sold for a good amount of money. But I was using this after they started using digital cameras, and everybody was raving about the quality. This is before HD. But everybody was raving about the quality of digital camcorders, and this thing just the quality of the video is amazing. I've transferred tapes onto my computer, and I swear to God, it's crystal clear after what is it, like 12 years? I think 15.
Oh yeah. Well, it was shoot. I remember the VHS player that I have around here has my father bought it in like 1985 for like $7,000. So.
Oh no, you're back.
Okay, I'll say it sounded like you passed away.
Yeah, no. We've got more people showing up here.
More people showing up. What is wrong with you people? Don't you know I have to go? It's pizza night. Me and Mrs. Yokeas have to watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soon.
How long we got? I'll get you off of here in time.
Well, until she walks through the door. You folks got that long, and then we'll come back and do this again when Ed's got some free time.
Well, yeah, and when hopefully Google Plus won't be a pain in the ass. But we'll go through a couple of these questions here since you might have to go soon.
Sure.
Mike Gardner popped up. He says, funny that you guys are talking about cost and opening of the wallet on games. His mom mentioned during the family barbecue the other day that she hated shopping for us at Toys R Us. And one time she had to get on a waiting list during Christmas time only to spend $90 on some sort of game that had purple cover and a star in the title. It was Phantasy Star 3. I feel like I should pay her back for her time and money spent on that monstrous shit of a game.
Mike, that's a fantastic story. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of a story similar that my dad will not tell, actually. Ed, you might remember this story. I told this story quite a while back, but where my dad, for Christmas one year, when we got the PlayStation...
No, don't tell the story.
Don't tell that story? No, I won't tell that story.
I swear to God, I listen to your podcast in my car when I drive for work, because I drive all the time.
Oh, do you really? I didn't know that.
I was so freaking depressed for the rest of the day after hearing that story. I genuinely felt bad for a young Yell Chaos. Just hearing the story. Is it that story?
It's that story.
Don't tell that story. That is such a depressing... We're trying to have a good time here.
Okay, we'll have a happy time then. Mike likes things with stars and purple shit on them.
Atari Leaf says hi. Hi, Atari Leaf.
Hi, Atari Leaf.
Atari 8-Bit Game Hunter wants to know what our favorite third-party gaming system is out there.
Oh, I never got to say what my favorite system to collect for was.
Oh no! Well, now, all right. Let me finish then. My favorite system to collect for currently, surprisingly, is the Wii U, or I guess the PC. I bought a few games on that, but obviously it's the Genesis and the Sega Master System for me because of the clamshell cases. That's the main reason. What about for you?
For me, it's the NES for no other reason, and it's cliche because it seems like everybody collects for the NES because, well, that's what you do when there's that many.
Because you trip over them. Yeah.
That too. But the reason I collect the NES is my favorite is because I know that I will be collecting games for this system for the rest of my life. I am never going to finish it, and I will always have something to look forward to.
You know, real quick, I feel that way about completing video games too, and I know a lot of people think I'm really weird for that. I don't go out of my way to complete video games because I want to always have I don't like to finish things and then not be able to enjoy any more of it. And I've finished a lot of games, but it has to be something that engrosses me so deeply that I feel I have to finish it. And
Okay.
if it's not like that, there are games that I love that I don't want to finish, because once I beat it, I feel like I'm done with it forever. And even though I can go back and play it again, I like there to be that mystery there.
Yeah, but on the other hand, that's why the good Lord gave us memory loss.
Well, okay, fair enough. I'm sorry, were you done with your favorite systems to collect for?
Yeah.
All right then. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, not at all. No, I agree with you. But that's a good point to make. And the point that I was trying to make is that, well, number one, that's why the good Lord gave us memory loss. And number two, I have a habit of this, and I'll share this with all the fine folks. Whenever I get a new game and I start playing the game and I get really entranced by the game and I start playing a lot of it, I got to stop myself. I got to put it away because I'm going to finish this damn thing and then, so and I was like, I'll come back to that.
There you go. I feel the same way.
Like, and I never 100% anything in one go. Like when Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D came out in the 3DS, I finished the game, but I didn't 100% it. It's like I'm going to leave myself something to come back to. It's kind of like leaving brownies in the refrigerator, You'll come back to that.
I'm the same way with most modern games. I've had the remake of Tomb Raider on the PC for like a year and a half, and I finally just beat it the other day. Lance and I played through. We played like 8 hours straight and beat the game between the two of us. But that was a father-son thing. That's the only reason I beat that one. That got really repetitive really quick.
I had a similar problem actually with Mario Kart 8 and Super Mario 3D World. They just kept inviting me to stay, and I'm like, all right! And I just kept playing and kept playing. And before I knew it, I'm almost finished with this fucking game. I'm like, I got to stop, because then I'm not going to have anything to do tomorrow. I mean, I could play all the other games, but F that noise. Mario,
Help me out here. What is a third-party gaming system?
I think a third-party gaming system. I think he means like he may mean like the Bandai Apple Pippin, or he may mean like the Capcom CPS.
Is that a third-party gaming? Wouldn't a third-party gaming system be like the Retron 5?
I think he means other than Nintendo, Sega, meaning companies that made. I think he means companies that made hardware but didn't make the games for them.
Oh, okay, then I guess I don't know what he's talking. I am so confused. Well, there are lots of systems like that. I mean, the Nintendo did not make all of the NES games, right? But they did make games for their own system. God, I don't know. I'm sure I have some. Did the RCA Studio 2? Did they make their own games? Probably so.
I think they used an outside software developer, because
I mean that
electronics companies electronics companies at that time did not have software design wings of their firm.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I wasn't going to pick that anyway. It's just right in front of me, so I figured I'd say that. God, no. I can't think of a single one. What did he give examples here?
Yeah, did he give examples?
Outside. Oh, you know what? I think he's just asking system manufacturers maybe that weren't common, because he says outside of the normal Atari, Nintendo.
Because the 3DO is an example of it. The 3DO would be an example because that was just manufactured hardware.
Well, I mean, given this list here, NEC. I like the TurboGrafx 16. As far as
but don't forget Hudson played a heavy part in designing that system. So.
Yeah, but is that what he's asking? Because he says outside of the normal Atari. I think he just wants to know things that weren't mainstream systems.
Oh, well, we could go on and on and on and on about that.
Yeah, I've got about 40.
Have you heard of the Worlds of Wonder Action Max?
Good systems. I've heard of it. I've never played it.
He's being specific.
I have. What do I have here? Do I have it sitting up here? I've got the Tiger R-Zone. I've got the Tiger Gamecom. But it's worse than that.
R-Zone and a Gamecom? Your eyes must hurt like hell.
I've also got. There it is. It's back in the corner. I have a Hyperscan in the box.
You have a Hyperscan?
I have a Hyperscan, and I have an extra controller in the box.
Or as I've heard, the Intellivision 3.
No, come on, don't insult the Intellivision. Don't even put it in the same breath. All right. I
understand that the Hyperscan hurts your fingers less.
Oh, I actually broke it out, and Lance and I tried to play it. It is unplayable. It
It's
takes
awful, isn't it?
it takes so long to, and I think we've only got the cards that came with it, but it takes so long to load anything off the card.
Hmm.
Uh, you load it for, God, it was like 10 minutes, and then the game lasts 30 seconds. I can't imagine any kid would want to play that. But I will say, you know what? It's like what are those things that the kids play with now? They got the figures and you put it on the stand, and it. My son has one. What are they called?
Smartphones.
Skylanders. Smartphones. Skylanders.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was Skylanders before there was Skylanders. It just didn't work.
Well, yeah, I'll go along with. Well, Nintendo had something like that for the Game Boy. The oh shoot, what was it called?
You're making stuff up.
With the scanner. The Game Boy eScan.
I was
Something
not
like
a
that?
Game Boy fan back then, so I'll take your word for it.
Well, no. I mean, I remember hearing about it and I didn't understand it, so I didn't buy it. Plus, it never made it to the stores near my house back then. Plus, I was a fucking kid. Even if that's the thing that people ask me that all the time. It's like, well, why didn't you get it? It's like, because I was 11. Where was I going to get $350 when I was 11? Just because I was
God.
alive doesn't mean that it was just right within my grasp.
It's hard for me to get $350 now. God, when I was 11, it would have taken me all 11 years of my
I
life
know,
to
but
save up
look at you now. At
$350.
least you're in the position you could probably rob some people.
Well, I'm big enough that I could rob some
exactly.
smaller people.
When I was 11, I couldn't rob nobody. I don't even know if I could rob somebody now. I could
Fair
try.
enough.
I could try. I mean, I'm going to Vegas, so no time like the present to try it out.
All right, we're trying to blow through questions here, but I keep getting sidetracked.
Oh, well, should I go?
No, you're fine. I want to go through the questions. No, I'm sidetracked. You're fine. It's the 20-year cycle. Kids growing up. Oh yeah, the 20-year cycle. People that were kids when a system came out, and they're when they hit. Actually, I don't even think it's 20. I would say probably 25 or even 30s really before they start buying up their childhood. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you're a kid all the way until about 34.
Well, I think he's referring to people now that are the people that are collecting for the Nintendo 64 are in their 30s now, but they were kids when it came out. I think is what he's trying to say. Yeah, that's true.
It could be.
There's some of that.
Could be. I remember I
then-
was big into the 2600 when I was a kid, and that shit was old when I was a little boy.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. There's some truth to that, but then you have the NES that everybody buys for. And, I was a kid back then, but there are kids that were, born in the late 90s that collect for the NES. So it's a good rule of thumb, but it's not proven, I don't think, in all cases.
No, I'll go along with that, absolutely, and it's not, absolute. Taste and age have nothing to do with anything. It's similarly, like you'll see a lot of people that make YouTube comments about, I like this, and I'm 15. It's like, well, just because you're 15 doesn't mean it's illegal for you to like the Roomba, or, whatever it is that they're liking. Age has nothing to do with it.
I watched a very good video where a cat rode on a Roomba. So I like Roombas.
Oh,
wait a minute, that's something different?
I meant like the Carmen Miranda Roomba, but okay, if that's what you want to do. I was speaking from a very Ricky Ricardo point of view.
I figured.
Okay, well, we
stream
can go with
looks great. I'm glad the stream does it really look great?
Really, because it looks like piss and
No,
shit over
I
here.
have no video. There's
I
no
can see
video
you
for me
now.
on the stream.
I can see you now. Everyone can
Oh,
see me and looking all dirty in a poorly lit room.
Except I can't see Ed. See? Just chaos, still awesome. Well, there you go.
Oh well, what the fuck are you looking at me for? You can, there are other things you could look at.
You're still awesome. I am not in the stream. But God, this is so screwed up.
One of these
Rob the
days
Movie
we'll
Collector
get
says I already have a PC. Rob the Movie Collector says I already have a PC, so the Wii U is the only console worth buying in my opinion. I can't say that it's the only one worth buying. I agree with you, Rob, because for me, any experience I can have on the PS4 or the Xbox One, with the exception of exclusives, which I don't really give a crap about, I can play on a PC if I want to. I can certainly get the same experience on a PC. So the Wii U, again, just my opinion, is the only gaming system out there right now that still feels to me like a console and not just a modified PC, which is what the others are. Well, to be fair, I guess the Wii U is too, but it feels like a console to me.
Oh, sure. I mean, it has an
I
experience
don't know. I would
attached
assume
to
you would
it.
agree, yeah, Chaos?
Well, seems to be the one that has an experience attached to it. I don't know if I've made this very clear on Chaos Tonight or Monday Night Chaos or whatever the fuck I call it each and every week. Um, but it saddens me because I figured I would be on board for the PlayStation 4, and I'm not. There's nothing for that machine that suggests, hey,
Well,
you
is
should
that
buy
because
this.
there are no games for it? Yeah. Getting back to my
Mrs.
niece,
Yell
who's the only
Chaos is
person I
here.
know personally that has a PS4. Oh, hello, Mrs. Yell Chaos. Well,
She's
if you
brought the.
gotta go, I can finish up these questions here.
Well,
Oh, well,
you
you
go ahead
go
and
eat
wrap up your
pizza. I'll
story.
finish up the questions.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
if
don't have
that's
to. I was just gonna say she has it, and now she's gonna buy a Wii U because there's no games for it. She was one of those people that rushed out to get it and discovered there were no games.
When was
So
this?
now she's done with it. She bought the PS4 shortly after it came out,
Oh,
and there's not a single game that she's interested in for it.
yeah.
So
I
now
know a
she's
couple of
going to
people
go
like
buy a
that.
Wii U so that she can play games that she's interested in.
Yeah, and imagine that playing games on a
I think
Nintendo
a lot of
system.
people are probably like that.
Well, anyway, I
I
gotta be
think
on my
the
way.
fact that there are now some games coming out. You go eat pizza. I'll finish up these questions here.
All right. Well, then you
And
guys
I
have a
think I
great.
said it was going to be an hour, but there's so many questions I want to at least finish them up.
Okay. Well, then
Have a
you
good
take care of the
evening. Thanks for
questions, and
stopping
I'll be
by.
back as soon as I can. And goodbye, everybody. Bye, Ed. I love you.
I love you too. All right, now it's just me, and I'm going to finish up the questions, and then I got to go. But and you can't see me, I don't think. You still can't see me. Yeah, this is just an audio thing. Okay, I'll answer the questions, and then we'll cut it off here. Uh, where did I leave off? I already have a PC. There we go. Uh, how you utilize the hardware you have in the end. Kit 171. Yeah, I mean, really, you can have the best hardware in the world, and if you don't write the programs to properly utilize it, you're not going to have a good game. And we were talking about the Atari 64-bit system, but in the end, they didn't have games that utilized the hardware. I guess, at least in the games that I have in my collection, the Alien vs. Predator game is the only one that even came close. And I don't even know that you could argue. Yell Chaos certainly wouldn't argue that they did a good job. Dustin Bowles, a bunch of numbers. They dumb down the PC games nowadays, and it's quite a shame. Watch Dogs is a great example. They disabled the graphics feature that coders found in the game and unlocked. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that. People going in after the fact and finding that they disabled all these features in the game, and it's something that they could have enabled when they ported to PC, and for whatever reason decided not to. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that. I haven't personally, obviously, gone and done anything like that, but I've heard that people have. Anymore, for many reasons, I'm probably just going to say stay with the Wii U, and certain other games that aren't on it I will play on my computer. Yeah, that's kind of my opinion too, Kit171. It's not that I have anything against people that buy the PS4 or the Xbox One. That's great. If that's what you want to have, that's fine. But, I mean, I've got small computers that can play all the games that I want to play. I can hook them up to my TV. There's honestly nothing nowadays that you can do on a modern console that you can't do on a PC. And I understand that people, they don't want the hassle of a PC. They just want to be able to plug things in and have it work. All of my PCs, I put them together, I plug them in, they just work. I don't have any problems. Every once in a while, I might have a conflict with a game. It usually just involves updating the graphics drivers, which takes me. My VHS tapes have aged great. You know what? It probably depends on where you keep them. You keep them in a wet basement, it's probably not going to be as good as if you keep them in a dry area, maybe? I don't know. Atari Leaf. The guy with the beard sounds great like Gilbert Gottfried. You know what? Actually, he has a fantastic voice. He talks, and the only reason I did is because Yell Chaos has a great voice. It is why I subscribed to him originally. That, and he told a fantastic story on the first video of his that I watched, and I was hooked. He actually reminds me, and none of you guys live around here, but there was a guy called the Son of Ghoul, and Yell Chaos sounds exactly like that guy. I keep trying to get him to say "Hey group" for me, but he won't. That was Atari Leaf. Thank you, Atari Leaf. Yes, the guy with the beard has an excellent voice. I agree. Think about your happy place. Okay. The Genesis has always been my favorite system to collect for. Mine too. 3DO technically, it's EA's console essentially. Is it? I didn't realize that. Ron Lopez, I've recently been getting into Game Boy and Game Boy Color with Mega Man Extreme 1 and 2. Return of the Ninja, Ninja Spirit, it's like an extension of the 8-bit library. Well, I mean, it's an 8-bit handheld, right? So that makes sense. Some good platform recommendations for those handhelds. Yell Chaos could have probably given you a ton of them. I do not have a huge collection of Nintendo Game Boy games, but I agree with you. The Mega Man games on the Game Boy, at least the two that I own, are fun. I mean, they're Mega Man games, and they play as well on the Game Boy, in my opinion, as they do on the NES. So, yes, those are great games. No Coleco or Odyssey. No, I shouldn't say it, or I should say. I think you're saying I should say. Yes, the ColecoVision was excellent. I like the ColecoVision. Have a bunch of games for it. It was called the e-reader for the Game Boy. Well, there you go, Yellcast. If you watch this later, it was the e-reader. The load time sounds like build-up for a hooker in the game last 10 seconds. Haha, just kidding. Oh, and now I can see both of you. Am I on here? I'm not on here, for whatever reason. And Dustin Bowles said, I see you in the stream. All right, guys. 25 of you watching now. I apologize. You can't see my video, or at least I can't see it in the stream here. We have had nothing but problems with this stream tonight. We tried 4 different times to get it to work. First, my mic didn't work. Then it did. Then I couldn't get his video. He couldn't get my video. And it's got to be Google+. I've got a good internet connection. His internet connection is not bad. Google Plus is just not agreeing with us tonight. But thank you very much for stopping by, the 25 of you that didn't ask questions. I apologize that it was not what I was hoping for, which is a video stream. But I'll try and do this again. Hopefully we can get it working. If not, I might try doing it on another service, try and do a live stream somewhere else. And 2 of you just clicked off, so I guess that means it's time to go. Thanks again for watching. See you later.